Anti-black hate crimes are deeply rooted in historical injustices such as the transatlantic slave trade, segregation laws, and colonial oppression. These structures laid the foundation for systemic racism that persists today, influencing contemporary racial hatred and violence. The legacy of slavery and segregation continues to marginalize black communities, leaving them disproportionately affected by discrimination and targeted violence. The transatlantic slave trade, which lasted from the 16th to the 19th century, forcibly removed millions of African people from their homelands, enslaving them in the Americas and Europe. These individuals were treated as property, subjected to brutal conditions, and stripped of their humanity. This dehumanization was justified by racist ideologies that continue to influence societal structures today. The long-term consequences of slavery, including economic disparities, social segregation, and racial stereotypes, set the stage for racial violence and discrimination that persists in the form of anti-black hate crimes. Following the abolition of slavery in the United States, Reconstruction, from 1865 to 1877, was a critical period that sought to integrate freed African Americans into society with legal protections and civil rights. However, the backlash was swift and violent. White supremacist groups such as the Ku Klux Klan or KKK emerged, using terror tactics including lynchings, arson, and mob violence to suppress black political and economic progress. Southern states enacted black codes and later Jim Crow laws, legally enforcing segregation and disenfranchisement. Jim Crow and institutionalized racism. Jim Crow laws, which lasted from the late 19th century to the mid-20th century, established a legal framework for racial segregation in public spaces, schools, employment, and housing. Black Americans faced systematic disenfranchisement, extreme economic exploitation, and heightened racial violence. Lynchings were common, often carried out in public as a means of racial terror. The normalization of anti-black violence created a precedent for hate crimes, which continued today in different forms. The Civil Rights Movement and resistance to racial violence. The Civil Rights Movement, spanning the 1950s to the 1970s, challenged racial injustice and sought to dismantle segregationist policies. Black leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and countless activists fought for legal and social changes, demanding protections against racial violence. Landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 sought to dismantle institutional racism, yet resistance to racial equality persisted. Hate crimes, including church bombings, assassinations, and police brutality, were used to intimidate and suppress progress. While the civil rights movement led to legal advancements, it did not eradicate anti-black hate crimes, which adapted to new forms. Contemporary anti-black hate crimes and systemic racism. Despite decades of progress, anti-black hate crimes remain prevalent in modern society. These crimes manifest in various forms: police brutality and extrajudicial killings. Cases like the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many others have sparked national and international outrage, highlighting the ongoing crisis of racialized violence in law enforcement. Voter suppression and racial gerrymandering, efforts to restrict voting access, disproportionately affect black communities, continuing a long history of disenfranchisement. Hate groups and racial violence. White supremacist organizations continue to operate, with hate crimes and racist attacks increasing in recent years. Economic and social discrimination. Black individuals face disparities in employment, housing, healthcare, and education, perpetuating systemic racism and creating environments where hate crimes can thrive. The severity of anti-black hate crimes is evident in the data collected by reputable institutions. The numbers reveal disproportionate targeting of black individuals. FBI hate crime statistics for the year 2022 show that of the 7,557 reported hate crimes, 26% were racially motivated. 60.4% of racial bias-related hate crimes targeted black individuals, making black people the most affected racial group. The majority of these crimes were intimidation at 40% and simple assault at 35%, with a significant portion involving aggravated assaults. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics from 2018 to 2020, approximately 40% of hate crime victims reported race, ethnicity, or ancestry bias as the primary motivation. Black Americans were the most targeted group, accounting for 29% of racial bias hate crime victims, despite making up only 13% of the U.S. population. The Southern Poverty Law Center reports that white supremacist groups and extremist organizations have increasingly targeted black communities. Hate groups have been documented in rising numbers, contributing to racial violence through propaganda and direct action. According to the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism in 2020, anti-black hate crimes increased by 50% during the COVID-19 pandemic. This really highlights how crises exacerbate racial scapegoating. From a global perspective, in the United Kingdom, black individuals comprised 40% of race-related hate crime victims in 2021 and 2022. In France, police violence and racial harassment against black people continue to be pressing concerns. Media coverage plays a critical role in shaping public awareness and perception of anti-black hate crimes. However, mainstream media often fails to provide comprehensive and consistent reporting. Several factors contribute to this. Selective coverage, underreporting or delayed reporting. Pattern: hate crimes against black people often receive delayed or minimal coverage compared to crimes against other groups. Example: the lynching of Ahmaud Arbery was largely ignored by mainstream media until social media forced national attention. Narrative skewing. When black victims do receive coverage, the media digs into their past, like whether they had a criminal record, rather than focusing on the perpetrator's racist motivations. Framing hate crimes against black people as isolated incidents. Example: hate crimes like the Buffalo mass shooting in 2022, where a white supremacist targeted black shoppers, were covered briefly and then disappeared from the news cycle. Contrast: anti-Asian or anti-Semitic hate crimes tend to generate extended media coverage and government responses. Tactic used: avoiding systemic discussions, instead framing the shooter as mentally ill rather than acknowledging white supremacist ideology. False equivalence, both sides journalism. Pattern media creates false balance by covering black hate crime victims alongside unrelated narratives about black-on-black crime. Example: after the Buffalo shooting, conservative outlets immediately shifted focus to crime in black communities, ignoring how white supremacist ideology fueled the attack, how it skirts systemic issues. Instead of discussing how anti-black racism is embedded in law enforcement and politics, media shifts to law and order discussions. The riots versus protest narrative. There's a pattern where the media criminalizes black outrage when responding to hate crimes but humanizes white reactions. For example, after George Floyd's murder, protests were labeled as violent riots, while the January 6th insurrection was framed as political unrest. This tactic involves softening language for white violence while using aggressive descriptions for black resistance. Ignoring historical context. The media often reports black hate crimes as if they happen in a vacuum, never linking them to systemic racism, redlining, Jim Crow, or white supremacy. For instance, when police kill black people, the media avoids linking it to historical patterns of racialized policing, such as slave patrols, Jim Crow laws, and mass incarceration. Omitting historical context makes it easier to paint these incidents as random, rather than part of a system. How to challenge media bias around black hate crimes. First, demand consistency. Call out how the media frames white supremacist violence differently from other hate crimes. Next, compare coverage. Show how black victims receive less sympathy than white victims of similar crimes. Also, expose the language tricks. Highlight media softening language for white attackers, while criminalizing black victims. Push for systemic discussions. Shift the conversation from isolated crimes to policy failures that allow anti-black hate crimes to persist. Finally, support alternative media independent outlets like The Griot, Blavity, Black Power Media, and ProPublica cover systemic issues without corporate filters. Many media networks are owned by conglomerates that have vested interest in maintaining the status quo. Discussions on systemic racism may be limited to avoid alienating advertisers or political affiliations. Sensationalism versus systemic issues. Mainstream media prioritizes high-engagement stories. High-profile cases receive attention, but broader systemic causes are often ignored. Gatekeeping and media bias. Newsrooms historically lack diversity, affecting how racial violence is reported. Black communities' voices are often not centered in reporting. Framing and language choices. Terms like racially charged downplay the severity of hate crimes. Neutralized language obscures the accountability of perpetrators. Social media as a counterbalance. Platforms like Twitter and TikTok allow grassroots movements to expose injustices. Be careful, as social media also spreads misinformation and extremist propaganda. To ensure justice and accountability, comprehensive federal legislation must include the following. 1. Explicit recognition and expansion of hate crime protections. Hate crimes targeting Black individuals must be explicitly classified in federal and state laws. Economic discrimination, such as housing and employment bias, must also be recognized as a hate crime. 2. Enhanced law enforcement accountability and oversight. Independent oversight bodies must be established to investigate racial profiling and hate crimes involving law enforcement. Officers implicated in racially motivated violence should not have qualified immunity protections. 3. Stronger penalties and legal consequences. Stricter sentencing should be enforced for anti-Black hate crimes to deter future acts. Victims must have the ability to pursue civil lawsuits against perpetrators and law enforcement agencies that fail to protect them. White supremacist organizations should be designated as domestic terrorist entities. Financial penalties and legal scrutiny must be enforced against such groups engaging in racially motivated violence. Online racial harassment, doxing, and incitement of violence should be criminalized. Tech companies should be held accountable for failing to curb racial hate content. Restorative justice and victim support. Victims should receive compensation, legal assistance, and mental health resources. Education and prevention initiatives. Anti-racism education must be mandated in schools. Community-based programs must be funded to prevent racial violence. Ensuring state-level compliance and federal enforcement. Federal funding should be conditioned on state compliance with anti-Black hate crime protections. A national task force should oversee the enforcement and reporting of hate crimes. The crucial role of community leaders in advocating for anti-Black hate crime laws cannot be overstated. They are often the voice of the community, mobilizing support and raising awareness about the importance of these protections. By organizing rallies, town hall meetings, and educational workshops, community leaders can bring attention to the pressing need for stronger anti-Black hate crime legislation. Moreover, these leaders work tirelessly with lawmakers to ensure that these protections are not just promises but become enacted laws. They engage in dialogue with local, state, and federal representatives, presenting compelling arguments and real-life stories that highlight the urgency of the issue. Their advocacy helps to bridge the gap between the community's needs and the legislative process, ensuring that the voices of those most affected by hate crimes are heard and respected. Community leaders also provide critical support to victims of hate crimes, offering a network of resources and solidarity. They help victims navigate the legal system, access mental health services, and find community-based support groups. This holistic approach not only aids in the healing process, but also strengthens the community's resilience against hate. In essence, community leaders are the backbone of the movement to combat anti-Black hate crimes. Their dedication and passion drive the momentum needed to bring about meaningful change and ensure that all individuals are protected under the law. Perspectives from the international community on anti-Black hate crimes can offer valuable lessons for the United States. By examining how other countries address these heinous acts, we can identify effective strategies and best practices that could be adapted to our context. For instance, Canada has implemented comprehensive hate crime laws that include specific provisions for racial discrimination. Their legal framework not only criminalizes hate speech, but also provides robust support systems for victims. This approach has led to a more proactive stance in combating hate crimes and fostering a culture of inclusivity. Similarly, the United Kingdom has established specialized police units dedicated to investigating hate crimes. These units are trained to handle sensitive cases and work closely with community organizations to ensure that victims receive the support they need. This model of specialized law enforcement can be an effective way to address the unique challenges posed by hate crimes. Germany offers another compelling example with its stringent laws against hate speech and hate crimes. The country has implemented rigorous measures to monitor and dismantle extremist groups, making it difficult for such organizations to operate. This proactive approach has significantly reduced the incidence of hate crimes and serves as a powerful deterrent. Australia has also made strides in this area by integrating anti-racism education into its school curricula. By teaching young people about the importance of diversity and inclusion from an early age, Australia is working to prevent hate crimes before they occur. This focus on education and prevention is a crucial component of a comprehensive strategy to combat hate crimes. These international examples highlight the importance of a multifaceted approach that includes strong legislation, specialized law enforcement, victim support, and education. By learning from these countries, the United States can develop more effective policies to protect its citizens from anti-Black hate crimes and ensure justice for all. Accurate data collection on hate crimes is essential for understanding the scope of the problem and developing effective solutions. Federal and state agencies must improve their data collection and reporting practices. Without reliable data, it is challenging to gauge the true extent of anti-Black hate crimes and to allocate resources effectively. Improved data collection allows for better identification of patterns and trends, enabling policymakers to craft targeted interventions. Law enforcement agencies, community organizations, and researchers can use this data to develop more effective prevention and response strategies. Moreover, comprehensive data collection ensures transparency and accountability. It holds institutions responsible for addressing hate crimes and provides a clearer picture of where improvements are needed. By prioritizing accurate and detailed data collection, we can take a significant step toward eradicating anti-Black hate crimes and fostering a more just and inclusive society. Accurate data is not just a tool for analysis, it's a powerful weapon in the fight against hate and discrimination. Let's ensure that every incident is counted, every victim is heard, and every community is protected. Grassroots movements have been instrumental in pushing for anti-Black hate crime laws. The power of grassroots movements brings attention to the pressing issue of anti-Black hate crimes and creates a groundswell of public pressure that lawmakers cannot ignore. From organizing rallies and protests to initiating petitions and awareness campaigns, grassroots activists work tirelessly to demand justice and systemic change. These movements often originate from the communities most affected by hate crimes, which gives them a profound and authentic perspective on the urgency and nature of the problem. They serve as a powerful voice for those who might otherwise be marginalized or silenced, and help to amplify the call for stronger protections and accountability. The fight for anti-Black hate crime laws is ongoing. Continued advocacy, education, and community engagement are necessary to achieve lasting change. While significant strides have been made, the journey is far from over. It is imperative that we remain vigilant and proactive in our efforts to combat hate and discrimination. Community leaders, activists, and everyday citizens must unite to push for stronger, more comprehensive laws that protect everyone, regardless of race. By fostering a culture of inclusivity and respect, we can work towards a future where hate crimes are a thing of the past. Legislation alone cannot solve the problem. It requires a collective commitment to justice, equality, and human dignity. Through sustained efforts in advocacy, education, and community outreach, we can pave the way for a world where anti-Black hate crimes are not just addressed, but eradicated. The road ahead may be long and challenging, but with perseverance and unity, a brighter, more just future is within reach. Anti-Black hate crimes should be explicitly recognized under federal and state law, with provisions for economic discrimination. Independent oversight bodies should be established to investigate racial profiling and hate crimes involving law enforcement. Stricter sentencing should be enforced for anti-Black hate crimes, along with the ability for victims to pursue civil lawsuits. White supremacist organizations should be designated as domestic terrorist entities with financial penalties and legal scrutiny. Online racial harassment, doxing, and incitement of violence should be criminalized, with accountability for tech companies. Victims of anti-Black hate crimes should receive compensation, legal assistance, and mental health resources. Anti-racism education should be mandated in schools, and community-based programs should be funded to prevent racial violence. Federal funding should be conditioned on state compliance with anti-Black hate crime protections, with a national task force for oversight.
If you're still here, thank you for hanging out this long. Please hit the like and subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that I can bring you more content like this.